Good morning, all. We're going to go ahead and get started here. Good afternoon. So my name is Georgia Lovelady, and I am your lay leader for this afternoon's services. As most of you know, we are a lay-led fellowship, and the messages come from the members of the fellowship. I'm going to start with our opening welcome. As you are welcome here. Visitor, friend, or longtime member, you are welcome here. With little children, or your partner, or alone, we joyfully welcome you here. You are welcome here as believer or doubter, as joiner or loner. You are welcome here. Feeling a part of us or not, full of energy or not, seeking a vision or a rest, you are welcome to join us, just as you are. And I want to acknowledge the native peoples because we are on their land. We acknowledge that we are in the Aboriginal territories of the Salish, Nez Perce, Blackfoot, and Anishinaabe people who shared the Helena Valley as hunting grounds. The indigenous story of the Helena Valley began long before the arrival of Europeans. We honor those who walked before us. We honor the path they have shown us in caring for this place for generations to come. We strive for justice and fair relations with their descendants. And I have asked, I think Sam's going to be the one to light our chalice this morning. If you would read with me. We gather to worship, to share our stories, to listen to one another with love. In this way, we will know one another and know we are not alone. So our cantor today is Mackenzie, and our first song is out of Singing the Living Tradition, 328. If you would stand as you are willing and able.
Might be 318.
318? Yeah, it is 318. I knew that at one time. So we would... Time for our offering, and Mara and Sam, if you could come up to do the plates. I don't see anybody new, but just in case, We thank you for gifts this day and all the gifts of action that make this community possible. If you are visiting, please remain our guest. Your present is your gift to us. So thank you for your loving hands is on page 25 if you need the words. Now's the time for the story for all ages. So Cass Mitchell's going to read for us today. And so if all the little ones and anybody that feels young in heart would come up, we can do Edwina and the dinosaur.
So, here is Edwina, the dinosaur who didn't know she was extinct. So, who knows what the word extinct means? Oh gosh. Let's hear what you have to say. Sam?
Well, it means it's not around anymore.
Gone.
Yeah.
Harrison?
It means all of them are dead.
All dead. Mm. What's your name? Evelyn. What do you think extinct means?
Something happened to all of them, and then they couldn't have any more babies, so then there couldn't be any more.
Something happened to them. They couldn't have any more babies, and so they're not around anymore. Mara? Somebody all killed them. Whew, that must have been quite a thing. Hmm?
Yeah, somebody
Somebody really big.
probably like some babies.
Oh, Harrison thinks it was a meteor.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good guess.
Extinction also lived that made them go extinct because they could not survive the conditions after the wind.
Now here's an advanced intellectual reply. They could not survive the new conditions after what cataclysm? Something happened to the earth. So they died out. Some of them, it seems like more suddenly than others.
So some people are trying to bring back, there's some scientists that are trying to bring back the dodo bird through engineering.
Ooh. So the dodo, I thought there was a dodo bird already.
There was, but it went extinct a long time ago.
Oh.
And now they're trying to bring back the genetic engineering.
They're trying to bring the dodo bird back with genetic engineering. Scary, isn't it?
Well,
What?
I said Brave New World.
That's right, Brave New World. Okay, so here we go. So everybody in town knew Edwina. Here she is walking in a crosswalk. Everybody around there is looking at her, smiling. She was the dinosaur who played with the neighborhood kids. She was the dinosaur who did favors for anyone who asked. And there's a picture of her helping change a street light bulb.
Can you move your mic to the other side because your voice is going that way?
Yeah.
Can you do that?
Sorry.
How about that? Yeah. Edwina gave us the clue. So, Edwina helped the little old ladies cross the street. She actually picked them up and carried them across the street.
Are they really little old to her? Or are they just like little young?
It looks like a little old lady to me.
Yeah, but I'm saying compared to her, she's
Oh, we don't know when she was born. And she baked chocolate chip cookies for everyone. Here she is handing out a whole bunch of cookies. Everybody loved Edwina except Reginald von Hooby Dooby. So here we are. Edwina is dancing in a circle with all different kinds of people, and off to the side is this kid with a really kind of yucky look on his face, like he's jealous maybe. Reginald knew just about everything about just about everything. He liked to give reports in class about all the things he knew. Today, he was going to talk about things that are extinct, specifically dinosaurs. So look at this. He's got this big picture of a dinosaur laying dead on its back, and the kids are very disturbed by that, including the teacher. Looks like, yeah, it looks exactly like Edwina. Do you think he's like pointing his finger at her saying, "You're dead"?
Yeah.
He's got this holier-than-thou look on his face. Easy to hate. But as soon as Reginald started, Beth McFederer asked, "What about Edwina? She's a dinosaur." Then Tommy Britcher says, "Yeah, Edwina can't be extinct. She bakes chocolate chip cookies for us." And then Mrs. Mink added, "Maybe Edwina is baking chocolate chip cookies right now." Before he knew it, everyone except Reginald was outside eating cookies. Woo, everybody's got a cookie. She's still got a tray full of baked ones for the kids that haven't gotten there yet. No one listened to me with that dinosaur around, thought Reginald. Look at him, he's mad. He's still mad when he's brushing his teeth. He's still mad when he's going to bed.
No, he's mad in his sleep.
Yeah. Well, tomorrow I'll prove to the whole town that dinosaurs really are extinct, and poof, Edwina will disappear. The next morning, Reginald handed out flyers that made excellent arguments about how extinct dinosaurs are. They also happened to make excellent hats. So everyone picked up these pieces of paper and just decided to make them into toys and kind of ignore what his Reginald was trying to do. So he got mad and he said, again, when the flyers didn't work, Reginald tried protesting. And here he is. Edwina and a little girl are at an ice cream cone stand getting ice cream cones. And he's standing behind them with a protest sign saying, "This is not happening." When the protesting didn't work, he tried everything he could think of. He banged a gong. He made himself into a one-man band with an accordion and a bass drum. He turned into a soft-shoe dancer trying to convince people that Edwina was dead. But no one listened. Here he is standing by himself, nobody around him. They are not attracted to Reginald. Finally, Reginald broke down and cried. Boo-hoo, he sobbed. Why won't anybody listen to me? And he heard a voice. I'll listen to you, said a voice from behind him. Who do you think was behind him? Who is that? Yes, it's Edwina behind him. So she was smiling at him, and he kind of recovered from his crying jag. Reginald took Edwina to his classroom. And there they are. He's got a big sign on the door, do not disturb. Inside, Edwina listened as Reginald told her the truth about dinosaurs. He was persuasive. He was expressive. He was loud. He was very convincing. Edwina was shocked. When he was done, Reginald felt fantastic. No one had ever listened to him as well as, or for so long. Everything Reginald had said made sense. There was no doubt about it in Edwina's mind. She knew she was extinct. And look at her realizing that. She looks kind of, what does she look like to you? Distraught, yeah. And then look what happens. You see what happened? Edwina blasted through the brick schoolroom wall and ran away. She just didn't care. And look at that, she left a dinosaur-shaped hole in the wall. And here's poor Reginald. And by then, neither did Reginald von Hooby-Dooby. He is last seen in Edwina's kitchen, eating freshly baked chocolate chip cookies. The end.
Well, I hope if I ever find I'm extinct, I just won't care. I'm gonna, the reading today is an excerpt from Len Keavy's sermon in August of 21. This is a time in human history in which we need strong stories, stories that help build our strength, our capacity to love and change and heal. I question then how carefully we need to tend to the stories we tell ourselves. I think a lot of us have stories of why we're not enough, or don't have enough, or don't love well enough, or are not loved well enough. Maybe it's one society tells us about why we are unacceptable and how we are not whole because of who we are, and we believe it. And even though these stories were never true, we were always whole. We always deserved kindness and compassion. When we live as if they are true, they block our growth and our aliveness. If our story doesn't have enough room in it for grace and growth and forgiveness, for change, for healing, maybe it's time to find a new story, to tell a new story, to live a new story. So I'd like to start off by acknowledging that the seed for this service was inspired by Lee Kenvey, a UU minister in training, who in the summer of 2021 came to Montana and gave a service in Cass's backyard. The excerpt I just read was a nugget I took from that sermon. Lee, pronouns they, theirs, was kind enough to grant me permission to use their idea and make it my own. Lee talked about thin stories meaning the narrow narratives we tell ourselves about our lives. I like to use the descriptive narrow because it conjures up a constricted place. And when we allow ourselves to tell a bigger story, it will give us space and breathing room. In retelling our stories the same way, we limit the broader picture of ourselves. What if we told a different story? By that I mean the same story, but in a different way. I am not talking about historical revision or slipping into denial. You don't change the facts of your life or what happened, but you can change the interpretation of those events and change your perspective. I believe that stories we tell ourselves shape who we are. Some are old stories about our childhoods. Some are current stories about our limitations. I have sometimes wondered how my oldest sister and I could have been raised by the same parents in the same household. To hear her tell it, our parents failed her, or at least my mother did. Our parents were working professionals, social justice activists, with a free-range style of parenting. In my sister's cataloging of failures, my mother did not bake or sew or go to PTA meetings. She was critical and drank a lot. All true. On the other hand, I felt loved and seen, a little neglected and let to run free, but also true. So do we change our story so we can change our life? Or do we change our life and the story has a different ending, meaning, at least for now? I like to think that the effect goes both ways. There are some stories I would like to stop telling and ones I would like to start telling. Here's the story I tell about my retirement. I left my job March 1st, 2020, and the nation shut down due to COVID 2 weeks later. We were asked to isolate, go on lockdown, work remotely, stay 6 feet away from non-household members, not travel, reduce our trips to the grocery store or any public places. There was no theater, symphonies, music concerts, in-person church, or community gatherings. You lived it. My retirement plans of volunteering for the free legal aid program and working on the sets for Grand Street, taking Spanish lessons in person, social dancing, traveling to Mexico, visiting my adult sons went out the window. Suddenly, I was alone in my house with my hand in a cast from surgery and no one to play with. It was not the retirement I envisioned, and that was my sad, sorry story of retirement. And all of it was true. I often say I would have been happier working than alone in my house. The other truth was that I found a way to see friends. I joined the UU coffee group for the first time, which I couldn't do while I was working. We met outside while sitting 6 feet apart in the dead of winter under blankets. Book club continued outside. The truth is, I would have struggled taking my job online, which would have been required. The tech part of my job was challenging for me. I was lucky that I left the workforce before it became remote. I did cancel my trip to Mexico, but I still went to Virginia so I could meet my son's girlfriend who was going to be his wife. And I didn't catch COVID until their wedding 2 years later. The story I'd like to tell now is that my retirement got off to a slow start. A bit bumpy and isolating, and then it got creative. I did not go extinct. Dinners outdoors, movie nights where a movie was projected on the side of a barn, Spanish lessons online, and reconnecting with my Alaska friends by Zoom, and lots of hiking. Not a bad retirement at all. And for the rest of the story is I have gone back to work. Just for 1 day a week, and I am happier working. And that's the new ending to that. We all have stories we tell ourselves that become our personal narrative, but how often do we take them out and see that some revision is in order? We often repeat them without much examination. But like the best books and movies, careful editing reveals a more authentic picture. What you understand as a child is not how you understand things as an adult. The movie The Fabelmans is a great example of a director seeing his parents' divorce through adult eyes. And I recommend this movie for all sorts of reasons. My friend Susan from Alaska tells about the study where they asked kindergartners whether they can draw. All hands go up. Can they sing? All hands go up. Can they dance? All hands go up. But by college age, these same questions elicit very few hands up. This might be a realistic assessment of our talents, or it might be the curse of comparison, or it could be the way we limit ourselves. If Judy Field was here, and she is, she was going to be gone to Arizona, she'd say everybody can sing. Our UU Coffee group asked the question, how are you creative? And I felt stumped and came up with zilch. I don't make anything. I don't paint or sew or sculpt clay or write or have anything to show. I don't like thinking of myself as non-creative. So I had to expand my idea of creativity, and with the help of my friends, I saw that I have creative powers in cooking and bringing people together and in gardening, and I have to say I make one hell of a cocktail. What we tell ourselves is powerful. Are we lonelier by telling how we live alone? Because the other story I'd like to stop telling, or the phrase I'd like to stop saying is, I live alone. If you know me at all, you know I live alone. So why am I reminding you and me? It bespeaks of not being partnered and somehow feels like a bid for sympathy, or maybe a more kindly interpretation, a bid for understanding. What am I saying exactly? That I've got it harder than you? I don't know when I started saying that, and I no longer know why. Because I don't need sympathy for having lost my partner, and you do not need to be reminded of it. Sure, it would be nice to share a life with someone, share household responsibilities, discuss the morning news, and especially during the pandemic, have someone that was a household member I could canoodle with. I'm not giving you a definition for canoodle. Maybe that's when it creeped in. But while I need to ask a friend to pick me up after surgery or help with anything that needs two people, I also don't have to negotiate bedtimes or vacation plans or put up with someone else's family, or for that matter, have my kitchen drawers rearranged. I get to keep my house in a relaxed state and binge watch TV on occasion, and. It might become a problem as I age, but then I will have to do something different. Most of you know that I am a member of Al-Anon, and this wouldn't be a sermon for me if I didn't include some Al-Anon wisdom. I'm often asked how Al-Anon works if the meetings largely consist of participants telling their stories without others giving advice or giving crosstalk. My experience has been that in hearing your own story told out loud, you see truths that you weren't able to see before. You see a pattern in what you tell week after week, and you see yourself in other people's stories. The poet David White says, "The discipline of poetry is in overhearing yourself say difficult truths from which it is impossible to retreat." So during hard times, I have heard people say, everything happens for a reason. Yeah, no, that doesn't work for me. As Reverend Megan Lloyd Joyner says, we are meaning makers, we human beings, and we fill in the gaps in our stories with reasons and providence. What is random, we make intentional. What is coincident, we make deliberate. I think it feels sometimes that we must do this because the alternative that everything in our lives is random is just scary. And I think it doesn't have to be scary. The beauty of all this making meaning out of the events of our lives is that we attach the meaning to them in the first place. So if we need to, we can attach a new meaning, a healthier meaning than the one we might already be living with. If we had a mother who made us feel unlovable, that does not mean we were unlovable, though we may have lived in that reality for years. When we heal and grow, we come to understand we are lovable, That is our new story. That is our new truth. The fact that our mother wasn't able to love us doesn't change, but we can change its effect. When I was exploring this topic, I came upon a therapy that is actually called narrative therapy. Who knew? And as one narrative therapist puts it, our lives and their pathways are not fixed in stone. Instead, they are shaped by story. The ways in which we understand and share the stories of our lives, therefore, make all the difference. If we tell stories that emphasize only desolation, then we become weaker. If we tell our stories in ways that make us stronger, we can soothe our losses and ease our sorrows. Learning how to re-envision the stories we tell about ourselves can make an enormous difference in the way we live our lives. So I'm going to encourage you to examine your stories, make any edits that seem right for you in this present day. Tell the stories that make you stronger. Ask yourself what purpose your problem-saturated stories serve, and if you'd like to do anything about them. So we're going to go into a couple minutes of silence before reflections, and if you would ask yourself, what stories would I like to stop telling about myself? What new story would you like to tell? Is your story too narrow for all that you are? The poet David White writes, anything that does not bring you alive is too small for you. So, we're going to take a couple minutes here. So if we have anyone that would like to share a reflection, I will pass the mic around. Maybe towards me. Okay. I follow instructions.
Thank you, Georgia. That really got me thinking. My story is this. I have had a lot of troubles with my knees over the last 15 years, and I've had 3 surgeries on my knees. The last one last spring was very effective, and I no longer suffer chronic pain in my knees. But that journey was full of a lot of pain, and I got used to minimizing walking around because of it. I never walk anywhere. When I go someplace to some event, I often ask the driver to drop me off right in front of the front door to minimize my walking, and like that. Well, lately, I have been going around with a friend who ignores that. And I said, well, why don't you go get the car and pick me up? She said, no, it's too hard, come on. And she grabs my arm and drags me to the car 2 blocks away. 2 blocks away. And I was expecting to be in terrible shape, and I wasn't. So I think I have to rewrite things. And thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Hi, my name is Mackenzie. Pronouns she, her. And if anyone has heard of Brene Brown, that she has a special on Netflix, at least one, and she's a researcher down in Texas and focuses on shame and vulnerability. And through her research, she has found that the most resilient people are the people who recognize when they're telling themselves a story that's not true. When you recognize that, oh, that's the story I'm telling myself, even though it's not reality. And so hearing this, it really aligns with her message about how to reframe your life in a way that matches what's actually true, and it helps us work through some of those challenges and understand what's the story that we're telling ourselves, what's not real and what's actually hurting ourselves, what's the internal bias that we have against ourselves, and that's not empowering. So if you haven't looked up Brene Brown, highly recommend.
Yeah, I'm Diane. Georgia, thank you. I find that your message was not only really well put together, and I kind of hung on every word, but the core of it is a message that transformation is possible. It's doable for any one of us, and for us collectively to help each other walk that journey of change. And so it's very thought-provoking, and I'm very grateful for for the labor you put into putting this message together.
Hi, my name is Greg, pronouns he, him, and just want to say, just working in the legal profession, you become acutely aware of how important people's addiction to stories is, because sometimes you're trying to work on a case and there's events A, B, C, D, E, and they don't make a narrative. It didn't happen in any certain way that you can construe into beginning, middle, or end. But if you want to have people's attention when you try to present that case, you better find a way to make it a story, because people are just addicted to stories. When we go to sleep, our brains still sometimes stay awake trying to tell us stories. So even when things don't necessarily happen in a narrative fashion, people strive to apply narrative structure to any series of events that have happened to them or they hear about.
I would say that if the running narrative that I provide myself on a minute-to-minute basis is helpful, then I'll take that addiction. One thing I have to thank you for is that when I read that this was the subject, the stories we tell ourselves and how this narrative, I was excited because I'm keenly aware of the running narrative in my brain about my life, and I'm noticing more and more what is not working. And what might help, and that the stories are not going to go away. The narrative telling is not going to go away because it's part of my growing process.
Hi, I'm Renee, and I'm in town with Pam, in town. I've lived in Helena before, and I met Pam, years ago, and so I'm happy to be here, and I see a lot of familiar faces. And Georgia, I loved the piece of your story where you talked about creativity and that your friends helped to draw out the creativity in you. So a piece of the story that I've told is that I'm an only child, my parents have both died, and I'm an orphan. But what I forget is that I'm surrounded by people who love me and that advise me well. And a few years ago, when my universe was falling apart, Pam told me, you don't know the rest of the story. You did. So you just gotta keep going. Just gotta keep going, because the story keeps unfolding. And a project that I was working on 5 years ago that wasn't working, it's coming full circle now, and it's useful now. So we don't know, and the story does keep unfolding. So thank you.
Thanks a lot, Georgia. It's surprising to me, I guess, well, I don't know, surprising. Interesting, you made me think how differently we see ourselves compared to how the rest of the world sees us. And for you to say that you didn't think you were creative is astonishing to me, because you're one of the most creative people I know, who can look at a situation, size it up, decide what to do about it, do it, and remember and tell about it, and add the dialogue, and the stories that you tell about the things you've done in your life are filled with creativity, and you inspire me with it.
Like Renee said, this is why we need our friends. Is there anybody else? Those were some great sharings. My commitment to myself was to get everybody out on time for potluck today. I may have exceeded my goal. Yeah. So our next song is from the Open Your Heart Song book, page 23, and it is I Still Have Joy.
This is one of my, you adapted the lyrics. Judy adapted the lyrics for this song, and I've never sung it without her. So together, when there's a pause in the chorus, we want to clap. What? Or shake something, or stomp, whatever you are able and willing to do to make this lively. So if you're able to stand and join, I'm happy for that to be. Page 13.
Let's stand, we can stomp our feet.
I still have joy, I still have joy. After all the things I've been through, I still have joy. I still have joy, I still have joy. After all the things I've been through, I still have joy. There are times in my life when I felt I couldn't go on.
someone singing and the author here.
I really am not the author, and it says in the songbook, the lyrics were adapted. I have never found the source of this song. A friend brought me a cassette tape of it to our Women Making Music retreat, and I loved it so much. And I love this song so much. Oh, there we go. I love this song so much, and it was, you know, I was raised in the Christian faith, and I feel a lot of consonance with that deep Christianity that I felt as a child. And this was originally a Christian song, and there wasn't all that much in it that said anything about the divinity of Jesus, but it was the feeling of the song and that idea of redemption, that we all can have this joy. And so I adjusted whatever words needed to be adjusted, and it's now kind of a you-ish song.
Yes, it is. So we're going to extinguish the chalice. I don't know if Sam wants to do that with his Rubik's Cube. And then we're going to say the closing together, and then we'll do announcements and joys and concerns. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. So, does anybody have an announcement that's not either on the back of your order of service or you didn't see in the on the email?
Hi, this wasn't in the announcements because I didn't get to it fast enough, but I have 5 acres in the valley that I really need help with yard work. This summer I have to haul around a lot of hoses, and my back is to the point where I can't do that. So I don't know if anybody knows anybody with a kid that can either bicycle out or drive out to near the Little Red Schoolhouse and help me out for pay, of course, with the yard work, mostly watering. I would, if you can let me know, come up to me either sometime here or email the people doing the announcements and they'll get a hold of me. Thank you.
Any other announcements? Oh, okay.
I'm Cass, and I see that the Big Sky UU board meeting is not in the announcement, so I feel legitimately moved to announce it. That it is this Friday night at 7 o'clock at my house, and it's always an open meeting, and if you have any input for topics you'd like us to address, or if you'd actually like to attend, sometimes there's treats. Let me know.
So I think at this point we take the sound off so that if folks would like to share a joy or a concern, it's not tape recorded and put up on YouTube.